Hello everyone, this is Leo from the Monkeys Making Misplaced channel. Today I bring you the sixth and final installment of our Units to Buy-in series. For this one we're going to talk about the Nation of Idols, Lyrical Monasterio, and what units you might be interested in buying for future decks. So first, let me go over the generic spiel. These first few slides will be similar in each video, but since I can't know which of the six nations you might pick to start, I will go over them each in the respective video. There were certain restrictions I put in place when coming up with the list of units. For instance, I don't talk about the orders, be they normal, blitz, or set. I only choose to talk about the units themselves. I also included units that certain archetypes might need, but avoided those that were maybe too bland, something like plus 5k isn't too exciting unless it has something else attached to it. We will go in increasing grade from 0 to 3. I have grouped the cards with similar effects and left those with more unique effects for the end of the grouping. So with that, let's start with the zeros. Not much to say here since it's very self-explanatory. You should pick up a set of effect triggers. Although they can sometimes be on the expensive side, they are worthwhile investments since they can go in every deck of your nation. Lyrical Monasterio is currently missing one of the effect heals, but will most likely be released in the Halloween set if it wasn't released in the Festival Collection. But I tried to look and I couldn't find it in there, so it probably didn't get released. Then we have the Overtrigger. It's obvious that you want to pick an Overtrigger for your nation. This nation does have 5 different printings of the Ochi. The Overtrigger, but they are all the same effect, so literally this is just one of those pick the art you like. Then we now have 2 generic OTs that you have that have unique effects and could be something your deck might prefer of your nation OT. I would suggest maybe picking up the red one for Lyrical. I feel like you'd probably like that multi-attack, being able to put a lot of pressure on. Now let's move on to grade 1s. We have the obvious choices here of perfect guards. So get yourself a set. They have 6 different ones, but they're all the same effect. They're all the good one that have the ability to be played for free if you have 2 or less cards in hand. So get yourself a set. All right, with all the generals done, let's move on to the more unique cards. We're starting with card draw. We're starting off with Caitlyn, who when placed on rear can Soul Blast 1 and pitch 2 cards to draw 2. It's more of a cycling effect, but if you care about putting cards in drop, or you just need a dig for better pieces, she's got you. She's just a double rare from the second Lyrical set, I believe. She's about 10 cents per copy, so not breaking the bank. Then we have Angelma, who can Soul Blast 2 when your unit is placed during the battle phase to draw you a card. So if your deck multi-attacks from hand or deck, then she can just get you some extra cards. She's less than 10 cents. She's a rare from the first Lyrical set. Following her, we have Larange, who is another cycling effect. By Soul Blasting 1 and discarding a card, you can draw a card. That ability works both on Vanguard and Rearguard, so if you want to put her in your right deck, you technically could. I don't think you would do that, but this is just a good card you can have on your Rearguard circle. She's less than 5 cents, and she's from the second Lyrical set. Lastly, in this section, we have Selma, who on boost lets you draw and discard. This, again, just helps you dig if you want to just go through more cards. She's a common from set 1, and she's less than 5 cents, so you can literally find her in the bulk. Next, let's move on to some recovery units. The first up being Millicent, who on hit of Vanguard lets you choose a grade 2 or greater unit from your drop and put it back to your hand. Having on-hit pressure is great. Your opponent is going to be more likely to want to guard your attacks because they don't want you to get cards back, things like that. And Millicent can keep doing this effect, right? If you can restand her for whatever reason, she can do that again. You're looking at 5 cents for this common from the third Lyrical set. Following her, we have Nokwa, who can come back from drop when a card is put into your order zone for a Soul Blast 1. This can be by you playing a set order, a normal order, a blitz order, I believe as well, because that ability doesn't say during your turn. But she does only come back to specifically behind Vanguard, and you can only control one of her, but she's great pitch fodder. So if you just want to have something to discard that'll come back, she's perfect. So a lot of decks use orders, so she can just be put in there. She's about $3 for a triple rare, so she's pretty cheap. Then we have Ermeli, who can Soul Blast 1 retire herself to shuffle 2 non-grade 1 normal units from your drop back into your deck. So if you're a very piece-reliant deck, things like that, you can get those pieces back in the deck. Maybe if your deck searches to multi-attack, then that'd be perfect. She's less than 5 cents, and she's just a common from set 2, so again, looking through bulk, or maybe you already have them. Lastly here we have Justine, who when discarded during your turn can Soul Blast 1 and call herself to an open rearguard circle. So she's able to circumvent the cost of discarding by being able to get herself back, which is pretty good. This can also give your deck a multi-attack if maybe your Vanguard discards or maybe another effect causes you to discard. As long as you have that open rearguard circle, she just allows you to call her there, right? Although she is 6k, if you're on Persona Right, that's still 16, right? And if you can provide her with a booster, she'll be at least 24, which hits through a defensive, right? And we did go over quite a few cycling effects in the previous slides, which you could use her. She is 20 cents, again, not breaking the bank. She's from set 1. So maybe try her out. Try combining her with some of the cards previously mentioned, or if your Vanguard already discards, that'd be pretty good. Now we're going to look on to some searching. Starting with Aura, who on hit of the attack she boosted, retires herself to search for an order card and add it to hand. This can be any order, blitz, normal, or set, whatever your deck plays, she can get you. And so if you need to see a lot of orders, or if your deck wants to get a lot of orders, then Aura is perfect. And her price does somewhat reflect that. She's about $2 to $5 depending on which printing you get. She got a printing in the 3rd Lyrical set and the Festival collection, so you have choices there. If you've seen that new Trick or Treat deck that's coming out in the Halloween set, Aura would be perfect there if you want to be able to get those Trick or Treat orders constantly. Then moving on, we have Ludia, who when placed on rearguard, counterblasts 1 and returns 2 normal units from your hand to search your deck for a copy of your Vanguard and add it to your hand. So this guarantees you Persona Ride in exchange for 2 normal units, which I think is pretty good. If you're able to just guarantee your Persona Ride, that's pretty good. She is a rare from the 1st Lyrical set, and she's less than 5 cents, which is insane to me. I feel like a lot of other decks in other nations would love something to search them a Persona Ride. Maybe the returning 2 normal units is too high of a cost for certain decks, but hey, if you want normal units in your deck for multi-attacking, then you can just add her in there. Then we have a somewhat unique card for this video. We try to avoid archetypes, but as the dress-up ability is being shown on multiple lyrical units, I think we are getting a new dress-up form in the Halloween set. We did decide to include Croquelle. She can, when placed on rear, counterblast 1 to look at top 7 for a card with the dress-up ability and add it to your hand. With the most likely increase in these types of units coming with the next Halloween set, I feel like Croquelle will be pretty useful in a myriad of decks. She is about 15 cents, being from the Festival Collection 2023, in which the dress-up ability was introduced, so not going to be very expensive. Then following this, we have stacking effects. First up being Lucretia. Some of these names are insane. You'll see some as we go along. Who can Soul Blast 1 to allow you to look at the top card of your deck, and then you return it to the top. She can do this any number of times, but she cannot, since she can't change what's up there, you will need to change the card with some other effect to look at other cards. But something like the Powerful deck would love this ability because she can just eat soul, right? She doesn't, you could just keep looking at the same card and soul blasting to empty that soul so that your powerful abilities will all activate. She's a double rare from, I believe, the 3rd Lyrical set, so she's about 10 cents. Lastly in this section, we have Eileen, who when she boosts her rearguard, lets you look at the top card and then either put it on top or the bottom. So no cost besides boosting. But if you're going to attack with your rearguards first, why not try to dig for a trigger, right? She's like $2. She has 2 printings, one in the 2nd Lyrical set and the other in the latest Festival collection. So, you know, get a set, start stacking some triggers, hoping you get lucky. If not, you just, you know, help yourself dig through more cards. Then we're going to move on to the last of the grade 1s. Starting off with Seiya, who when placed on rearguard lets you look at the top card, call it to rear, or add it to hand. If you add it to hand, however, you have to discard a card. She's from the trial deck and costs less than 10 cents. So just an easy way to get more units on board or some extra shield on hand. Following her, we have Ira, who on hit of Vanguard from attack she boosted returns to hand. Being able to go to hand helps dodge removal, which is currently quite prevalent in the meta. She's just a common from set 2, so she's bulk, so you can go dig in, find her. And then lastly here we have arguably one of the strongest cards in Lyrical, Yukia, Yukia? Yeah, I don't know. Who can once return, give a unit placed in her same column +5 if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater. If that was it, then she would be almost forgettable. Not the great effect, right? But her second effect is where the real power lies. So at the end of the battle, she boosted a rearguard. You can Soul Blast 1 to return that boosted unit to hand. Being able to give power, maintain your units by putting them back in hand, and being entirely generic. That's why Yukia is such a strong card, and that's why she is around $45 to $50 per copy. This card's definitely strong, but be careful buying her if you aren't sure you enjoy a deck, right? It's a $200 commitment, essentially. So it's quite high, so be absolutely sure before purchasing. But with that, we end the grade 1s. Let's move on to the grade 2s. With the more in hand section, starting with Meredith, who on hit of Vanguard lets you check top 7 for an order and add to hand. Again, just like Aura, she doesn't specify a top of order, so if you like on hit pressure and want to get more order, then Meredith is your girl. She's about $1.50, so again, you're not going to break the bank, but I definitely would recommend picking her up as so many lyrical decks care about orders. Then we have Cecilia, who when placed on rear from hand can counterblast 1 to draw a card. This is just a simple effect. There's nothing really to it. You have to control 3 units, 3 or more other rear guards, but Lyrical has a lot of rear guards. I'm going to be honest with you. You probably get this effect off to happen quite often. She does have a promo printing and also was from set 1, but she's still less than 25 cents. I think one of her printings was like 5 cents, so whichever one you want to get, you'd be good. Then lastly in the section, we have Shidel, who can counterblast 1 and move into Soul to draw you a card. She can provide Soul and draw cards, so it's pretty good. But if you want Soul, then she's pretty good. She's a rare from set 1, and she's less than 10 cents. Following that, we will move on to the resource section, or the Soul Charge and Countercharge section. Starting with Palmyra, who when discarded from hand during your turn will go into Soul. Helps with when writing up and provides more Soul, right? If you want to have something to pitch that won't just go to drop, she's perfect. She's about $1 per copy, so you can get a set pretty easily. Less than $5 probably gets you a set. Next is Nona, who has quite a few promo printings. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't know she had been printed as a promo that often, but I have seen her a lot, so I guess that explains it. She's Soul Charges 2 when she hits a Vanguard. So you can get some Soul if you can pressure your opponent, right? Your opponent's gonna have to guard if you don't want to, doesn't want you getting that Soul. She's sense. I mean, she's got so many printings, honestly. Then we're gonna move on to some very similar effects in Virginia and Sophia. Virginia will move into Soul and countercharge 1 if she attacked while boosted and you played an order. Sophia needs to hit a Vanguard to put herself on the bottom of the deck to draw a card and countercharge. She can also gain power when another rearguard is put on the bottom of the deck. So she fuels herself in a sense, right? If you have 2 of these, the first one won't have much power, but if that one is able to hit, right, maybe your opponent doesn't want to waste guard stopping a rearguard, then your second Sophia will be much stronger, right? They're both about 10 cents, so if you want some extra countercharge, then get a set of either. I'd probably suggest Virginia first. Then we are going to talk about some units that care about bouncing cards or can bounce cards themselves. So we're going to start with a favorite of mine in Michu. A favorite of mine in Michu, which is Unity. I really worded that weirdly. This card is a card I love playing in Michu, the deck, and her name is Unity. That was very confusing, mostly because her name is like not a name really. But regardless, she can counterblast 1 when placed from hand to put a card from your order zone back to your hand. If you've ever played Michu, this lets you get the cannonball back in the hand, and then you can just play it again to draw you a card. You can play it for free with the grade 1 set order. That's why I played 2 in my deck, because you can play multiples if you get a bunch of unities. This only works with set orders, but if you can get multiple uses out of them, like in Michu's case, then you might want to play her. She's a rare from the 3rd set, so she's less than 10 cents. Moving on, we have Fluidity, who when your other rearguard is returned to hand can counterblast 1, move into Soul to draw you a card and call a grade 3 card from your hand to an open rearguard circle. I mean, she's getting rid of herself, right? You'll have an open rearguard circle. So quite a few decks bounce. So if your deck can bounce units, then Flurry can give you some multi-attack. She's about $1, having come out in the 3rd set. Then lastly here we have Lauka Pacana, which is one of the names I was saying. This is insane. Who on attack of a Vanguard, if you Persona Rod, can counterblast 1 to return 2 rearguards to hand and gain plus 10k. She just opens up your rearguard circles, which is great. A lot of the cards you'll see care about being called to an open rearguard circle. I might not mention it, but if you just, you know, I have the cards on the screen. If it says open rearguard circle, then that's where a card like Laupakana can really shine. She's literally only 30 cents. She just came out in the festival collection, and I definitely think this is going to be a strong card moving forward. I feel like people just aren't giving new things a try. But with that, let's move on to the extra effects in Grade 2. First up being Floor, who when placed on rearguard from hand, reveals the top card of the deck and calls it to rearguard if it's not a Grade 2. If you don't call, then you bottom the card. She's just a rare from set 1, literally bulk. Next is Nala, who when placed during the main phase can counterblast 1 to call a card from Soul to open rearguard circle. However, you have to discard a card for each card in Soul after you do this effect. So don't use this if you have a lot of Soul, because you will have to discard your entire hand. She does also gain plus 5k if you have no cards in Soul, but that's a little bit less relevant here, right? You just kind of want her for the recursion of getting things out of Soul. She is about $7, so she's definitely not cheap, but I mean, hey, that price has to mean that it's doing something right. Lastly here, we have the Lyrical Cycler. We've talked about these in the other videos. They, when discarded from hand during your right phase, you can Soul Blast 1, put at the bottom, draw a card. And she can also, when placed on rear, if you Persona Ride, counterblast 1 to give your Vanguard ability. That ability being that it gives your front row plus 5k until end of turn. I think for that reason is why she's currently $20 a copy, and I would say justifiably so. She is very recent, so again, that might also explain the price. There's probably not many in circulation. But if you pack some and you play Lyrical, I would definitely suggest keeping these. But if you don't, I would definitely say, hey, maybe some to some of your Lyrical homies that play them. And then moving on to Grade 3s, I'm going to speed up here. I won't give a price anymore unless it's under 15 cents. Starting off with On Hit Pressure, we have Fiamma, who when she hits a Vanguard, can return to hand. Makes it annoying for your opponent to take your rearguard attacks, because now that you are literally going to get to open a rearguard circle to call more things. She's just a common from the 2nd set. Next up is Teruz, who gains an on-hit ability when she attacks Vanguard if you have no cards in Soul. The ability gained is that if she hits, you can draw a card. She's a whole 55 cents, literally 5 cents over the rule. I don't know why I really should have sorted these better, but you know. And then lastly here we have LB, who provides protection to your other units. Excuse me. And when she hits Vanguard, can countercharge 1. She's a double rare from the 2nd set that is about 75 cents. So protection, countercharging on 1 card, pretty good to me. Next we have some on-place abilities, starting with Andorra, who gains a crit for CB2 when placed from hand. If you can provide her with power or guard restrictions, then she can provide you with some extra damage. She's a rare from the 1st set. Then the next up is quite a unique effect, I think, is Philomena, who when placed on rear allows you to play an extra order, right? And this ability can stack, so in theory, if you get all 4 copies, you can play 5 orders in a turn. So if you've seen the new Trick or Treat deck, this might be a good early pick or early grab before that deck comes out, as I feel like you're going to want to play a lot of Trick or Treat orders in a turn, right? So that, and again, she's super cheap. I'm not mentioning the price because literally cents. The last one here is Ingrid, who when placed on rear guard other than from hand, you can countercharge 1. She also allows you to stand another rear guard in the same column as her. She gains plus 5k when she attacks and then puts herself on the bottom of the deck. Then lastly, we have some extra effects for the Grade 3s. Starting with Annalise, who at the end of the battle she attacked while boosted will go into Soul to give another unit plus 5k. Although, like I said in the beginning, a simple 5k isn't great, but being able to clear that rearguard circle is probably the better thing. Being able to do it during the battle phase. So you can, as you've seen, and I've talked about it, a lot of the cards say an open rearguard circle. So Annalise, excuse me, just opens that rearguard circle up for you. Then we have Elikel, who, when your Vanguard is placed, binds herself to draw you a card. She can also allow you to use the Black Wings and White Wings mechanics of outside of Celestial, because she gives you access to both. She's a triple R from the first set, and she's about $1 per copy. So again, not breaking the bank. But if you kind of wanted to test out those White Wing, Black Wing cards, you could definitely just add in Elekel, I don't know, Elkel, and maybe get some use out of those in something that isn't Celestial. The last card we're going to discuss here is Adelheid, who is the OT user for Lyrical. So same effect as the other. She gains power and shield if your opponent gets a trigger. Then her second effect, at the end of the battle, she attacked while boosted. You can Soul Blast 1, return another unit in the same column as her to hand. And if you remove your OT from drop, then you can call a card with grade less than equal to your Vanguard from hand. She's about $6 per copy, and rightfully so. I do think she's a very good card. She can return 2 units to hand and provides multi-attack if you have to use your OT to guard, right? If you don't get to drive check it or damage check it, then hey, at least you get a decently strong effect. But with that, we end our series. This has been quite the project for me, and I enjoyed looking through the cards and finding some cool text. I hope that you guys all enjoyed the series and maybe you found some cool cards to try. I will be taking a break from the informational content and moving towards deck profiles and gameplays as we showcase the decks in set 11. Our case set 11 is currently delayed, so we might be a little late on the uploads this coming week. But once we get that in, we will start that grind. Hopefully we get the case on Saturday, but it doesn't seem likely. So over the course of the next 7 weeks, we will do 14 deck profiles and 7 matches. The first 2 weeks are going to be our new series called Out of the Box, in which we build a deck using only the cards in the set to essentially gauge what Bushiroad is giving new decks as they're coming out, right? Because that's the theory, right? They're saying, oh well, if someone picks up like set 11, they can build these decks, right, out of the box. Obviously, we will be including things like PGs and triggers, but we will be only using vanilla triggers, and we'll be using the good PGs. But we could, it probably won't come up if we use the good or the bad ones. And then we'll use the over trigger for the nation. Just to, we could use the over trigger for the nation or the generic ones. If you would like us to use the generic ones, just let us know. But we want to show essentially the quality of a deck out of the box, right? So we will start with Silhouette versus Mythiarch, and then after that we'll do Vermilion versus Ezel, and then following those, the next 5 weeks we will be doing the Nation Fight series, in which we will build the decks more optimized than in the Out of the Box series. So we'll build Silhouette, as strong as possible, Mythiarch as strong as possible, Vermilion as strong as possible, and Ezel as strong as possible, right? We might change up the pairings because I know some of these decks might be a little strong. I do believe that Kat wanted to play both Silhouette and Mythiarch, so we might do something like Silhouette versus Vermilion and Mythiarch versus Ezel, but that still hasn't been like completely established. But then after that we will have the the nation fights, in which we will do all the glitter decks versus all the non-glitter decks. But with that, this has been Leo. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this series. Have a nice day.